So as my shirt says, I work in Gig Harbor, but my team and I also work all around Gig Harbor. We work on the whole surrounding areas. And in this video, we're going to talk about an area that are just outside of that a lot of people gravitate to. And here's why. The average price point in Gig Harbor for a single family home is $1.14 million for a single family house in the Gig Harbor area. If you go 10 minutes north up into Kitsap County and go into Olalla, you know what the average price point was in June of 2026? $731,000. In this video, we're going to explore the question as to why people are paying the premium to live in Gig Harbor, and then why others are choosing to pay a lot less, like $400,000 less on average, and live in South Kitsap in the Olalla area, which is where I'm standing right now. My name is Darren Rivers. I am the Northwest Realtor, and I am managing broker of the Rivers Group. My team and I have helped over 600 families buy and sell homes in Gig Harbor and the surrounding areas, and we're going to get into all of this topic right here. Just so you know, my information is right here. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We would be happy to be a resource about this topic or any of our other videos. And if you're having some questions about where you want to be and want to narrow down what neighborhood you may want to live in, take my neighborhood quiz. The QR code is right here. And we also have a relocation guide to Gig Harbor right here on that QR code. So let's get started. So we're going to talk about 3 topics, and we're only going to concentrate on one area outside of Gig Harbor that might be a good option for you, and that is right where we're at in Olalla, which is in South Kitsap. And we're going to talk about 3 things, like I said. We're going to talk about the schools, we're going to talk about the price point, and the third thing we're going to talk about is the advantages and disadvantages to living in Gig Harbor and paying the premium to live there versus the less expensive route of living in Olalla. Okay, so let's do a little overview comparing some just basic differences between Gig Harbor and Olalla. And some of this is going to be community kind of feel, some of it's going to be activities, some of it's going to be location, obviously, and the conveniences that are nearby and whatnot. And so we're just going to get into it. We're standing in front of the Olalla Bay Market. This is kind of a central piece of Olalla. It's a really cool gathering spot. It's a little store, and you can get pizza and beer and wine, and they have a deck that overlooks the water. And it's a really, really cool gathering spot, kind of a little sense of community here where a lot of people come. But there's some big differences between Gig Harbor and Olalla. One, Gig Harbor is in Pierce County. Olalla is in Kitsap County. The property taxes tend to be cheaper in Kitsap County. The overall home values are less in Kitsap County as compared to Pierce County, at least statistically speaking. Gig Harbor's got all the stores, right? It's got Costco, Home Depot, Target, the YMCA, all of these things. And that is in Gig Harbor North. Olalla doesn't have any of that, but it literally borders Gig Harbor North. So you can live in Olalla for a lot less money and still only have a 10-minute drive to all of those conveniences that Gig Harbor has to offer. So in reality, if you lived in Olalla, those stores might be closer to you than if you lived in further parts of Gig Harbor, like Martindale or Fox Island for sure. That's going to be a further drive to all those amenities, which are in Gig Harbor, but they're much closer to Olalla. So keep that in mind. Another thing that Gig Harbor has is it really has its central hub of activities. I mean, we have the Maritime Festival and the Summer Concert Series and the Farmers Market and all of these things that are a real sense of community. And if you lived in Olalla, you could certainly participate in those things. But Olalla doesn't have any of those events specifically for this particular community. They either have to travel to Gig Harbor to do it, which is not far, or Port Orchard, which is just north of here. They have some of the similar events as far as the Farmers Market, and they have their own parade and things like that as well. But Olalla itself, it's much more rural. It's much more spread out. There's no town center or city center in Olalla at all. So if you want some of that, you're going to have to go to Gig Harbor or up to Port Orchard. But Olalla has a few things that Gig Harbor doesn't have. Okay, so this is kind of the town center. That's not official, of course, but it sort of seems to be. But Olalla's got a cool little winery here that you can go to. I don't know of any wineries in Gig Harbor, to be honest. And like I said, if you are looking for space and acreage and privacy, clustering properties, and definitely at a more affordable price, Olalla might be exactly what you need to look at because it is affordable as compared to Gig Harbor, where the exact same property, if you were to pick it up out of Olalla and put it in Gig Harbor, you're talking 30-40% more dollar-wise. Okay, so I want to go into kind of a little stereotype, and this is nothing official. There's no statistics on this. It's just kind of the vibe and the impression that people have, and a stereotype, for lack of a better word. So Gig Harbor kind of has an air of being a little uppity maybe. It's super clean demographic, it has a higher average income than surrounding areas, things like that. And unfortunately, sometimes South Kitsap kind of gets that stereotype of a little bit of a lower demographic. And what's really funny that reinforces that stereotype is that right out there. I guarantee in Gig Harbor, you will never see a boat that's abandoned on the beach like that, but you'll get it once in a while here in South Kitsap. Okay, everybody, so I am obviously standing in front of Olalla Elementary School, and I want to talk about some differences between South Kitsap School District and Peninsula School District, which serves the Gig Harbor area. So there's a lot of similarities. Peninsula School District has about 9,000 kids in it. South Kitsap has about 9,300 kids in it, so they're pretty close to the same size. They both have a total of 17 schools. Difference is South Kitsap has one high school, whereas Peninsula School District has two main high schools, Gig Harbor and Peninsula, and then there's an alternative school which is called Henderson Bay, which is much, much smaller. But anyway, so they have three. South Kitsap only has one. It's obviously a much larger school, at least in the high school. The high school ratio, student to teacher ratio is 20-1 at the high school, but overall in the whole school district, it's 17-1. And in Peninsula School District, it's 19-1. But I get asked a lot of questions about school districts in the area and what are good school districts and what are bad school districts. And that's really subjective, obviously. Not my position to tell you what a good school district is, because that's subjective. And then I can get accused of steering people towards one way or another and all that sort of good stuff. So I encourage you to look up all the stats on your own. But I will tell you on niche.com, Peninsula School District currently has a B+ rating, while on niche.com, South Kitsap School District has currently a B- rating. So they're both in the Bs. One's rated a little higher than the other with all of their criteria, but check it out for yourself. We are going to be driving to a different part of the Olalla area. We're going to go to Long Lake and check it out. But while we're on the road, it's only appropriate to talk about commute times. So it just depends where you're commuting to. So Olalla is just like Gig Harbor as far as proximity to Highway 16. There's going to be some areas that are like really, really close within a 30-second drive, a 1-minute drive. There's going to be other areas that are 10-15 minutes just to get to the freeway. That's no different than Gig Harbor. Realize Olalla sits a little bit north of Gig Harbor, so depending what direction you're going, you're going to add that to your commute time. But if you are somebody that works up in the Bremerton area, Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, or up at the Bangor Submarine Base, anything like that, Olalla's going to be closer. If you're commuting across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge over to Tacoma or SeaTac, or forbid you have to drive to Seattle every day from here, it's going to add, an extra 10-15 minutes on your drive, ending that's just further north on the freeway. And then, of course, depending how far off the freeway you live. So just keep it in mind, proximity of Olalla as compared to Gig Harbor and how that's going to affect your daily routine. Another thing I want to hit on, the difference, it's just the difference at the feel of the vibe of the environment that you live in. Olalla overall is much more of a rural feeling environment. There's very few tract homes. I can't really think many of any. It's much more spacious. It's much more spaced out. It's much more individual-like. Whereas Gig Harbor seems to be a bit more of a planned community. Now there's rural areas than Gig Harbor for sure. There's older areas. There's areas that do not necessarily fit a planned community. But all of the newer stuff in Gig Harbor is absolutely a planned community, and you are not going to get that feel out here in Olalla. Okay, so we are standing on the public dock of Long Lake, and this is in South Kitsap, and it is just barely north of Olalla. It's, literally almost in your backyard. So I wanted to talk about outdoor activities that you can do in the Olalla area as compared to Gig Harbor, and realize they border each other. So you could go do all of these in both areas, just one might be closer than the other. So I'm standing at Long Lake. This is a fairly large freshwater lake in South Kitsap, just north of Olalla. You can water ski on it and all the things like that. The only lake in Gig Harbor that has anything similar to this is Crescent Lake, where you can water ski. It has a public boat launch as well, but it's a bit smaller. It'd be a little bit more confined. There are homes on this lake. There's homes on the Crescent Lake as well. But like I said, Crescent Lake, and we'll show it on a map right here. Crescent Lake is just a little bit smaller, but they both have the same type of activities available to you. Okay, next is like hiking trails and mountain biking trails. In South Kitsap, we have Banner Forest. And again, this is just a little north of Olalla, but it's really close. I mean, you could probably just ride your mountain bike to Banner Forest and then go for a ride. And there's tons of miles of trails, and it's really well maintained, and it's great. Something similar to that in the Gig Harbor area is the 360 Park, but that's over the Pretty Bridge and out on the Key Peninsula a little bit. So it's not quite as convenient as Banner Forest would be if you lived in Olalla. Now, Gig Harbor does have hiking trails throughout. There's Kopachuk State Park, and there's the Ormic trails, and there's all sorts of trails like that. But as far as real, mileage on a mountain bike, Banner Forest is really close. 360 Park's a little bit outside of Gig Harbor prop. And the last thing I want to touch on is where you could take your four-legged animals. And of course, you can take them to all these trails that we're talking about, and technically they're supposed to be on leashes at all of these places. But both areas have their own dog parks that are off-leash dog parks that are still out in the forest that you can go on trails and walks and things like that, and they're all enclosed with a fence, and dogs can be off-leash. And in the Olalla area, you have Bandix. In the Gig Harbor area, you have the Rotary Park, which is in the McCormick Trails. So we are now traveling back towards Gig Harbor, which is a whole whopping 12 minutes away. So we're all pretty close here. But I wanted to kind of go over just what area might be better for some people and what area might be better for the other. It really just comes down to personal preference and comes down to your budget. Obviously, we already mentioned earlier, South Kitsap and the Olalla area on average is going to be significantly cheaper. Your dollar is going to go a lot further, so you're going to be able to buy a bigger home on more space and all that stuff as compared to the Gig Harbor prices. South Kitsap kind of has that stereotype of being a little bit more blue collar. That's totally correct. Whereas Gig Harbor might have that a little more white collar. I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts of things. You can look on all the different editorials online and all the stereotypes that go along with everything, and that's exactly what they are. They're stereotypes. There's probably not great people in both areas as well. So you just got to figure out what fits you and your family and your lifestyle. You want a little bit more of a nitty, gritty, down-home, blue-collar kind of feel? Or do you want something a little more uppity, a little more status, maybe, in nature? And one thing that Ashley and I actually were just talking about was why is such the big difference in the demographic and the stereotypes and the vibes between the two areas, especially since they're so close. And one of the things is I think people a long time ago used to kind of steer away from South Kitsap because the school rating was much worse than it currently is now. I remember looking at niche.com a couple years ago on this, and South Kitsap School District at that time had a C- rating. So they've obviously gone up quite a bit during that time, and I'm sure that's going to help bring it together a little bit. But as many of you can imagine, tools are super, super important with families with kids, and to spend a little bit more money to be in a better school district, I'm sure that had a great effect on the demographic one way or the other. But it seems like those are kind of blending a little bit more uniform these days. Hey everybody, so I know this is an odd clip that is popping up on this video, and it's because, I don't know, this is twice in a row now that my team has come back and said that we've had some audio problems on a couple clips. So got to figure out what the heck is going on with that, if it's a mic problem or background noise or whatever. But this clip looks different than all the other ones. Two things that I went into on those two clips, we're going to combine it one here. One is if you're looking for active walkability, being more involved in the community, or having the community like right there in your backyard, then downtown Gig Harbor might be the place to be. That's my dog back there. That's Coda, by the way. Hopefully he doesn't get on camera doing anything that he, shouldn't be doing. But if you want more space, more privacy, and you want your dollar to go further, then Olalla will probably be the place to be. Okay, anyway, so that sums up this video. I know this was a weird conclusion, but again, we're going to put all my information right here. So feel free to reach out to me and the team at any time. We'd be happy to help you. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. And that's it.